Lesson 47. Meet Caroline Lebar. Listen.
Not many women make it to the top in the business world, but that's what Caroline Lebar has done. Starting at 17, without any qualifications, she rose to the top of the advertising business within 10 years and now runs her own agency. The Brignall Lebar agency is well known for its exciting, creative campaigns.
What did you do after leaving school?
I found a job within 2 weeks because I had to. I started off as a filing clerk at the London School of Economics because I would like to have done a degree in economics. And then I pretended I could type, which I couldn't do. And I tried to be a secretary to a Singalese gentleman who imported various spices and herbs from Ceylon and got into terrible trouble trying to type 2 fingers. And then I started working in advertising. I got a job in the research department of an agency. That's how it started.
What attracted you to advertising?
It was a fairly dynamic industry. As a business, it's very dynamic. It's fairly competitive, and I'm quite competitive. It just took off from there. Really.
What do you like about running your own company?
Control over one's own destiny. Building something up for oneself as opposed to working for other people. And complete freedom to do as one wants to do, basically.
How large is the company now?
We have a bidding now of about 2.5 to 3 million, which is good. We have 5 main accounts, and we've got a lot of new business, in fact, going on at the moment. So it's growing well, according to plan.
If you hadn't worked in advertising, what do you think you would have done?
If I hadn't worked in advertising, I would have been very interested in going to television, current affairs programmes. Starting off, I guess, as a production assistant, and then ideally working up, being a researcher, and then hopefully being a director or an editor. It's a very competitive business, I think even more so than advertising. But that I would have enjoyed enormously.
Now, coming back to your present company, how do you see the future?
Well, I obviously wanted to be successful, and I believe it will be. And we're doing very well so far, with luck, again. To build it up successfully, for it to produce outstanding creative work, for us all to enjoy ourselves. I think that's terribly important. And then eventually, I don't plan to spend all my life in advertising. I'm a firm believer that one can pursue more than one career in one's life. I'd like to move on and do something else.
Listen and repeat.
I work for an agency. A company. A partnership. It's successful. Competitive. Go ahead.
I started off in the research department, the legal department, the personnel department. I had been there for 6 months when I was promoted.
By the end of the year, I was running my own department. I've been with the agency ever since. Eventually, I'm going to set up my own company.
If you hadn't had your present job, what would you have done?
I would have tried for a job in a progressive company, a dynamic industry, an enterprising firm, a profitable concern.
If I hadn't joined the agency, I'd have gone into television. If I'd had the opportunity, I'd have gone to college.
Things might have been very different.
Pronunciation.
Listen to this example.
You play basketball quite often, don't you?
I play a lot of tennis, too.
Now you reply.
I play tennis whenever I get the chance. I play a lot of tennis too.
Now you reply to the next one.
I'm going to study art next year.
I wish I'd studied art.
You studied science at university, didn't you? I wish I'd studied art.
And the next one.
Can anyone here understand French?
I can understand French.
You speak German well, don't you? What about French? I can understand French.
And the last one.
Nobody loves me.
I love you.
You don't really. You just like me.
I love you.
That's all for today. No, I mean, that's all for today. For today. Anyway, that's all.
Practice 2. Listen and speak.
Practice talking about some important turning points in people's lives. First, listen to the example.
I met Robert at a party in Nashville, Tennessee. Just think, I didn't even feel like going. I'm awfully glad I did.
So if you hadn't gone to that party, you wouldn't have met your husband.
It's all a question of chance, isn't it? I got my job with Moondiscs by answering an ad in the Daily Telegraph. I never thought I'd guess it.
So if you hadn't answered that ad, you wouldn't have got your present job.
That's right.
Now you talk to Mike.
I met my girlfriend Meg on a management course I did when I first joined Moondiscs. I must say it was a very useful course.
So if you hadn't gone on that management course, you wouldn't have met your girlfriend.
Well, I don't know about that. The world's a small place. I believe in creating my own opportunities. For example, when I was looking for a job, I wrote to all the recording companies in London offering them my services.
So if you hadn't written to all those recording companies, you wouldn't have got your present job.
Well, Moondiscs were the only people who replied.
I met Dan at a roller disco. I'd never been to one before, and I kept falling down. Dan kept helping me up. He's a fantastic skater.
So if you hadn't gone to that roller disco, you wouldn't have met your boyfriend.
I was lucky, wasn't I? Dan also encouraged me to take the job with Venture Limited. I applied for it through an employment agency. The people at the agency were very kind and helpful too.
So if you hadn't gone to that employment agency, you wouldn't have got your present job.
And if Dan hadn't been so encouraging, I'd never have had the self-confidence to take it.
I met Linda at a symphony concert in Sydney. I was a student then, and I'd been given a free ticket. Linda was sitting next to me, and we got talking.
So if you hadn't gone to that concert, you wouldn't have met your wife.
Right. And strange as it may seem, I also met Lou Caruso by chance. I was introduced to him by a friend of mine at my golf club.
So if you hadn't been introduced to Lou Caruso, you wouldn't have got your present job.
Yep. As Fran said, it's a question of chance, isn't it?
Practice 3. Listen and write.
Listen to Lou Caruso talking about his career.
My father came to the States just after the First World War. He and his brother had a small fruit store in the Bronx. He didn't have much ambition for himself. He was quite happy making a living from the store. But with me, it was different. The one thing he wanted was for me to be successful. That meant school, college, degree, the whole lot. To cut a long story short, I graduated from law school when I was 22. Oh boy, was he proud. His son had become a lawyer. That really meant something to him. Well, my first job was with a big insurance company. I started off in the claims department, where I was just one of a dozen junior clerks. I worked hard, not because I liked the job, but because I didn't want to disappoint my father. I'd been there less than a year when I was promoted. I had my own little office, my own telephone, and half a secretary. By the end of my second year, I was running the department. I was also going crazy. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I resigned. I wanted to start my own business, to be my own boss. My father gave me the money to set up a small advertising agency. And when I say small, I mean small. 1 room and a telephone, that's all. But very slowly the business grew. One of our accounts was with a record company, so I got to know a bit about the music world. Well, I'd been running the agency for about 5 years when I began to get restless again. So I sold it. And guess what? I bought up the record company. Big Records. And I've been in the music business ever since.
Practice 4. Listen and speak.
First, listen to the examples.
You went to college when you were about 18, right? What would you have done if you hadn't gone to college?
I had no choice, really. My father decided for me.
You studied law while you were at college, didn't you? What would you have done if you hadn't studied law?
Well, don't laugh, but I've always been interested in history. Yes, I'd probably have studied history.
Now you continue.
You joined an insurance company soon after you graduated, right? What would you have done if you hadn't joined an insurance company?
Well, I suppose I'd have taken a job with another big company.
You started your own business after leaving the insurance company, didn't you? What would you have done if you hadn't started your own business?
I've honestly never thought about it. It was the one thing I really wanted to do.
Your advertising agency was successful, wasn't it? What would you have done if it hadn't been successful?
I guess I'd have tried some other line of business.
You were able to sell your advertising agency after running it for about 5 years, right? What would you have done if you hadn't been able to sell it?
Frankly, I don't know. I'd have just kept trying.
Then you went into the music business, where you've been ever since. What would you have done if you hadn't gone into the music business?
Now hold it. Let me ask you a question. What would you have done if you hadn't become a reporter?
Well, I don't know. I'd probably have worked for an insurance company.